Okay,
Thanks. So we'll call the finance committee meeting to order. I do not believe we have any on-site packet. As of last night, we did not have any additions or revisions to the agenda. Okay, moving on to announcements. Anything anyone would like to announce? Okay, let's review our minutes from December. They are in your packet.
I move to approve the minutes from the December 14, 2022 Finance Committee as written.
I'll second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Any opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. Okay, monthly finance report update.
It starts on page 5 in the packet, with the cash balance report to be done. In other words, that's what that is. You know, we've been watching this, and I just want to point out that it kind of seems to be starting to stabilize some, which is kind of, you know, we've been in the compact for over 2 years. We had all that license extension thing. So that took it out a little bit. But it is starting to kind of even out and level out. Now it will, of course, go up with the spring grads that start coming, but we also, that will be a little bit more toward the end of the fiscal year, and we do have some things that we pay like quarterly and more toward the end of the fiscal year, so. But anyway, just wanted to kind of draw your attention to that. Any questions about that, and then the revenue is on page 6. And then the expenses on page 7. They're getting ready to, I'm hoping this will be a little bit better. They're getting ready to do new reports. So I think the reports are gonna look a little bit different than this. That's probably what you'll see in June. Because I think they're getting very close to going out with the new ones. But supposedly the new ones will be a little bit more helpful to us. And so they may look a little bit different in June. So because we actually, these reports are generated from the agency that does like our processes, our invoices and stuff like that for us. They do this. That's something that we generate ourselves. And then just on, starting on page 8, you'll kind of see just a summary. You know, the total revenue, licensing, the total expenditure, salary and wages, and then the fee fund. You will see that for the past several months, just so that you get an idea. But you're starting to see some reds in the difference in the fee fund. So it's not continuing to go up all the time. It is starting to level off a little bit. Then the revenue, just graphs. That's a little bit easier for you. And then the expenditures.
An update on our budget for 23, 24, 25.
Okay, what you have on page 10 and page 11 in your packet is the governor's budget for the Board of Nursing, and this was what we asked for. So what we asked for made it through the division of budget and the governor, and then went over and testified to both the House and the Senate about our budget. There wasn't really a whole lot of questions. You know, we tried to explained the best that we could about updating the license software, the fact it would be in 2 phases and stuff like that. And they seem very receptive to that. It has, passed the House Budget Committee and the Senate. However, we won't know for sure until they do the omnibus bill. That's the huge bill that they do at the end, and it specifies for every agency what the appropriations are. I mean, I don't have any thinking that it's not going to go through because I haven't heard anything really. I'm a little bit more concerned, not at our budget, but the governor had put in for a 5% pay increase process for all employees. And it's my understanding that made it through the House, but the Senate took that out. So what will happen is they will go to conference committee now. And so there's a few representatives from the House and a few from the Senate. They get together in a committee and just work things out, any differences that they have. So I'm hoping maybe that will make it through. That would be really great if it would. And we certainly, you know, if we do get that, they increase our appropriations to make up for that, but we do have the fee funds, you know, the money in the fee fund that we cover that, so. But other than that, I mean, so far we're looking fine as far as our budget. But we won't hear on that omnibus bill until, let me see, they come back for veto session, I think like the end of April or something. So it feasibly could be then before they. Think that one.
4 months into the budget.
Yeah. 4 months left of the budget year. That's kind of the way they do it. Doesn't make much sense to me either.
Update on the data center.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Adrian Guerrero, Director of Operations. Happy to say that we have moved our production data center out of the Topeka site. That was a long time coming and was a little stressful, but the team planned very well and we had our end done within 4 hours. And that included moving towards the Kansas City area. We did run into a little bit of a problem with the internet provider having some configuration issues, so it took an additional 4 hours into the next day, but for the most part, went pretty smoothly. It's a great location. We're about 125 or 135 feet underground in a cave. It's quite a robust data center. It's used by the United States Archives, so it's a pretty robust location and very secure. So I'm pleased with that. The next big project right now is that we're moving our backup data center from the Columbia, Missouri, it too is in a cave, to alternate location in Oklahoma City, and that work is being done right now. Actually, they're working on the firewalls and those sorts of things. With the supply chains issues still kind of there, it was a little delayed getting our firewalls, so we're a little bit behind schedule, but we think that we'll hopefully be done by the end of the month or early into next month, and then that project will be done. And I never want to do that again. So I'm hoping these, yeah, it has been a stressful situation, but team did good, not much downtime, and things are working well. So that's that on that front. I don't know if you need any.
You might mention what came up in education committee just briefly. I know we're still in the exploration phases.
Correct. We've been working on our cybersecurity program. I have personally spent hundreds of hours with our information security officers, and we're really kind of taking the lead as a non-cabinet agency into developing some of the best practices and guides, information security responses, those sorts of things. So we're going through the full program to try to do that. And as such, we've identified as a state some areas of concern about receiving external media, which is like USB drives, CDs, those sorts of things. And we get those as parts of investigations. At times they'll, the teams doing subpoenas or those sorts of things, they get the information in. And so we have a practice of scanning those on an offline computer and double checking all of that before they're ever introduced to the network for cybersecurity. So we were looking at it from that particular angle of how to address that particular solution or situation. And was working with a company to do essentially what would be a data upload service that would scan those files and those sorts of things before they were ever introduced to the network. So we were looking at it from that angle, but I happened to be in the education meeting yesterday. And apparently there's also a need for, I don't know if I fully understand it, so, but it's the program.
We receive external media from all of our programs for any site visit. We require a self-study and we require all their documents to be sent on the USB drive. So currently we're getting it that way. The request yesterday was to go to a virtual resource room. Accrediting agencies use their own portals that programs upload into their portals with all that data. And so far, as we've been working with virtual, the programs have been setting up their own site for us, and then we just access it. There was some question about whether we needed to have our own site for them to log into as well, but it needs to be, because obviously they're working with secure data as well. But so that came up, what as an option to the USB drives that we use.
So that's that's an example of a clear need of basically any business, or government agencies dealing with those sorts of things. And so with that expanded scope, I had thought about using it for HR and those sorts of things when we're onboarding people or even board members, when we're trying to gather information to get for your state, profiles and those sorts of things. But to have a service that's flexible enough to be able to use it in multiple fashions, that meets all the security requirements, that has all the non-disclosure agreements, all of those kind of things in place. So I started to explore that from the angle of the investigations, but now there's this other potential opportunity. The price is, everything IT is so expensive. But, so expensive is relative in terms of if you had an exposure or leak, that's going to look very much by comparison of what we would have to deal with that. So starting the exploration phase, but the discussion in the committee meeting is if we had the funds available this fiscal year and we wanted to do that, and it met all of the things, I had no promises whether or not we could get that. I would have to work through the full city process, but it's looking like it's right about $30,000 per year. We always factor in at least a 10 to 12% increase every year because industry, can fluctuate from year to year. But with the expanded scope, I don't know what to expect from that or whether or not we'll have it in the budget and those sorts of things. So it's early on in this process, and I would want to get the input of like Linda and her team, and obviously Janelle, and probably even Jill, because we got things that the finance still do. And see what
That might be something that we try to budget for, just because of the calendar and how budget requests have to go in. We may budget for it before we actually operationally decide we're going to go forward. And then we have those abilities to do it if we need to, but we'll make those operational decisions.
We had it in our 3-year IT plan to look at the potential service, and we started down the road of another company, and although it looked good on paper when we saw the demo and kind of really seeing what it was going to do, it really didn't fit the needs of what we were looking for. So we kind of delayed that project, and all these other things are going on. It's really a staff of 2.5 people doing this work. So we have a lot going on currently. So it's kind of put to the side for a little bit. But clearly there's a need for such a service. And so I think it would benefit several other departments in the agency.
Adrian, I applaud you, and Colton's on the phone. Your entire team has done an exceptional job of ensuring our technological support and updatedness. I don't, that's really a word, but we are leading across the nation in the connectivity and the security. And we have seen other boards of nursing encounter malware attacks and virus attacks. And I know there are agencies from the state of Kansas as well as from across the nation, boards of nursing that are reaching out to understand the expertise that you and your team bring. And we value it very much.
I appreciate it. You know, Tony does the infrastructure side of things, Colton does the web presence and, you know, oversee the department. So, but it really is a full agency effort. It is the KSB and Information Security Program. So I feel that all of the departments, everybody is really done a good job identifying things. And I'm happy to report everybody's taken the security course and now I need the board members to do the same, but I'll talk about that in the board meeting.
Get on.
But, you know, they're doing, everybody is doing a fantastic job, and including our information security officers that help us. You know, it's an important thing. You know, the benefit is nothing happens. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
you know, but it's taken.
we truly value what you bring. So thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. Let's do a 5-year legislative review. We have KAR 74-1110. This is for civil fines in your packet. We are on, it's the last page, page 12. It's being used by our investigative committee.
Madam Chair, I do have a question. Is there a reason why it goes to credit the state general fund instead of our budget?
I'm gonna let Carol. explain.
Well, I don't know if I know the official, but
Okay,
that way we're not really making money from that
okay,
to run the agency.
okay.
Truly, our revenue is pretty much from the license fees, not any of the fines. So it can't be interpreted, you know, perhaps that we're issuing fines so that we can get more money,
That
you know, or
makes sense.
something like that. So that's why it all goes to the state fund.
Okay.
Do we have an idea of how many funds we do per year? Do we do a lot of those?
That's one of the things we could add to the report that Linda's team brings so that we could.
We did do that. I don't think I've ever seen anything more than like a $300 fine, for any one thing, but. That's usually $100 or $200 that they stick close to, but it just varies. But I'll put it in the report for June.
So that is a fine according to the discretion of the nurse, of the investigator, or are
The
they?
investigative
following this?
team assigns that, so that investigative committee has those discussions, and then there's some guidelines so that one person doesn't get $3 and the other person gets 15, you know, I'm making that up, but that there's some guidelines, but then each case is reviewed individually, and that investigative committee comes together and makes that determination of compensation. And then obviously they take into account historical decisions, those kinds of things. So if the committee so desires, we could approve this, or
I'll move to approve KR 74-1110 as written.
KSA.
Oh,
Yes, it's a statute. It's a statute, it's under rank.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't misread it.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve KSA 74-1110 as written.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Tiffany. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. Any opposed signify by saying. Motion carries. Any agenda items? Even I'm sure we'll have some update on
Yeah,
all of our technological
that and
processes.
you know, our upgrade to the licensing system, hopefully
Sure.
we'll know more about the budget. And so, yeah. I think we're good.
Well, we have a few minutes before we convene for the board meeting, so we will consider the finance committee adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the clock has not made up to daylight savings time in here.
Sure.
Obviously. Are we not surprised about that?
I think I changed it last time.
I think it was in finance committee, yes, I do believe that's true.